Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Sue and today we're doing a gentle yoga hip opening sequence. Let us begin our yoga class on our backs. You can lie down with your legs stretched out in Savasana, or if that's uncomfortable on your low back, bend your knees and let the knees drop towards one another. Close your eyes, allow your shoulders to relax, soften your limbs. Relax your facial features, and we begin with the breath. Inhales through the nose, and long exhale out through the nose as well. With your next exhale, feel your limbs grow heavy. Soften your jaw, your cheeks, and allow the entire body to be at ease. As you take a few more breaths here, body is at ease, allow the mind to settle down as well. Put aside everything else and allow yourself to arrive right here, right now on your mat. Let's take that one more inhale. And exhale. Good. Let us start to awaken the body. You can do this by moving your fingers, moving your toes, and rolling out those wrists and ankles. So a little bit of movement to fire up the body. Good. And still remaining on your back, walk your feet in a little closer towards the body, still towards the hips so that the knees are pointed straight up towards the ceiling. Pick up your hips and place the tailbone away from your shoulders, allowing a natural curve to that low back so that is just a slight space between your low back and the ground. Allow the arms to relax, soften your facial features, and let both knees gently drop to one side. Inhale back to center and let it drop to the other side. Continue to move with the breath. Exhale off to one side, inhale back to center. We want to warm up that low back, the hips, those big joints. Finish off to make both sides even, and then find your way back to the middle. Gather your knees into the chest, one at a time for a hug. And keeping the knees together, you're just going to slowly draw circles with those knees, so small circles to start off with. And as you start to become a little warmer, those circles can become bigger and wider, massaging out that low back. Any knots that you feel free to just roll it out a little. And then switch directions. Good. And you're just finding your way back to the center. Gather your knees into the chest for a hug. Okay. And then hold onto your kneecaps, letting the tailbone draw away from the body, letting the knees draw away from the chest. Next, exhale. Squeeze those knees into the chest. And inhale. Let those knees draw away from the body. And exhale to squeeze. And inhale to release. You can continue to do this movement just using your breath to guide you, or you can start to add some abdominal movements as well, abdominal strength here as well. So as you draw the knees into the chest, you can lift the shoulders and head off the mat and squeeze yourself into that small ball. And then as you inhale, simply relax and let the hips drop back down to the mat, shoulders and head relaxing. Keep going like that. Exhale to squeeze. Inhale to release. Just at your own pace. One more. Good. And then release that, softening, placing both feet down onto the ground. Let both knees gently drop side to side in a very controlled windshield wiper movement once again. Good. And then find your way back to the center, knees back to the center. Place your feet down about hips width apart. If you're not too sure where to place your feet so that the tips of your middle fingers just barely grazes the back of your heels, and that's a good gauge for most bodies. Allow the upper body to relax. Pressing down into the feet, begin to tilt the tailbone slightly off the mat. Just a small movement to lift the hips will do. And then inhale to release. So it's a very small movement. Tilt the tailbone off the mat. Squeeze the glutes as you lift the hips off the mat and release. Next exhale, try to lift up a little higher, coming into bridge pose, squeezing the glutes, and then release, softening. Don't let those knees open up. Try to keep the thighs in line with one another as you lift, and release. Do a few more of those if you can. Exhale to lift, and inhale to lower. Keep going. Good. Lower the hips all the way back down onto the mat. Carefully roll the spine down. Just for a moment, let the knees drop towards one another. Take a breath here just to absorb that feeling. Good. Let those knees draw apart. Press down into the feet to lift up into bridge pose. This time going a little higher if you can. Perhaps you can interlace the fingers under the hips and draw the arms in a little closer towards one another to come into a deeper back bend. Keep the upper body relaxed, belly soft. As you press down into the feet, you're going to squeeze those glutes and keep pressing the inner thighs towards one another. Hold it here. One more deep breath. And then very carefully release and roll the spine all the way back down onto the mat. Taking your time once again. Okay. Knees into the chest. Gather it in for a little bit of a roll out. Rocking side to side. Little circular movements. And switching directions. Good. Let's take a moment to stretch those legs out. Stretch those legs out long on the mat. Reach the arms overhead for a deep stretch from the toes to the fingertips. Big inhale, stretch. And exhale to soften and release. One more time, stretch. And exhale to release. Good. Walk your feet in a little closer towards the body. Prop your right ankle just above that left knee. Try to keep the right foot flexed, not pointed, flexed. Place that foot against the left knee, just above the left knee and the thigh, and press that knee away from the body without using your hands. It's just going to be your leg strength that does the work for you. If you feel enough in the hip stretch, you'll stay where you are. We're just beginning to open it up here a little. If you need a little bit more, you can lift the feet off the mat and use your hands. You reach your right hand in between that little window that you've created and interlace your fingers behind the left thigh. From here, see if you can keep the tailbone pressed down onto the ground. Keep pressing that right knee away from the body and keep drawing that left knee in a little closer towards you. As you do this, you want to continue to breathe. Big inhales. Very slow exhales. If you have your left foot lifted off the ground like I have here, you have an option to very carefully draw small circles with the left knee. Keep the entire lower part of your body as a unit as you draw these small circles. You're just looking for a little bit more of a depth to the stretch. Maybe as you start to circle that knee, you'll feel a deeper connection to that hip joint, deeper stretch. Switch directions. Good. And very carefully place that left foot back down onto the ground. And from here, let your right foot pivot down towards the ground. And if you can't bring that foot all the way down, you may be able to grab a hold of a prop, a pillow, or a block like I have here to let that right foot rest on something. Okay, so as you do this, you want to make sure that your right knee doesn't collapse in towards the body. You want to keep that right knee pressed away without using your hands, but you can use your left hand to bind with your left ankle or shin. So you just hold on to that foot to keep it grounded. If you find that your hips have shifted quite a bit towards the left side of the mat, go ahead and adjust your shoulders so that your spine is still in a straight line even as you take that twist. Allow your right shoulder to remain grounded. You can do this by stretching your right arm out. And just hold it here. Keep your breath flowing. One more deep breath. Very carefully unwind the spine first. Bring that right shoulder off of the ground. Roll over to the right side and cross the legs, and then roll onto your back. Take a moment here. Just notice what's going on in the body. Perhaps you'll need windshield wipers, letting the knees drop side to side. Perhaps hugging your knees into the chest will feel better. So listen to the body and do what's appropriate for you this time. We're back to the center. Make sure that the hips are centered. Place that left ankle just above that right knee joint on the thigh, keeping that left foot flexed. Press the left knee away from the body without using your hands. And if you feel enough of the stretch, you'll stay right here. If you need a little bit more, lift that right foot off the mat and wrap your hands around your right thigh. Keep that tailbone pressed down onto the mat. Allow your shoulders and face to relax. Soften your jaw and then breathe. If you have your right foot lifted off the ground like I have it right now, you can start to draw small circles with the right knee, keeping the entire lower half of the body as a unit. Small circles to explore that left hip joint, those glutes. Switch directions. Find your way back to the center. Carefully lower that right foot back onto the ground and let the left foot gently drop towards the right side. Okay, so if your foot comes all the way down onto the ground, great. If not, grab a hold of a pillow or block and place it where that left foot will land for a little support. And if you find again that your hips have shifted quite a bit off to the right side of the mat, adjust so that the spine is still in that straight line. Once you've got this, you can bind right hand holding onto the the left shin or the left ankle for a little support. And again, try not to let that left knee collapse in towards the body. Try to press that left knee away from the body to feel a deeper stretch to the hip and your IT band muscles. Okay. Keep that left shoulder grounded by stretching that left arm out. Now breathe. Okay, very carefully, we're going to unwind the spine first by bringing the left arm back over to the right side. Carefully uncross those legs and then onto your back. Again, just taking a moment here to observe what's happening in the body. Perhaps you need some windshield wipers. Perhaps knees into the chest for a hug. We're back into our bridge flow out dynamic bridges. Place the feet on the ground above hips width apart again. And carefully press up into bridge pose. So feet on the ground. You're going to press and lift up into your bridge pose as best as you can. Squeezing those glutes in. Making sure those leg muscles are strong and supporting you. And then very carefully release. Rolling the spine all the way back down onto the ground. Good. If you need a little bit more, you can add the arms to this movement. As you lift the hips off the mat, the arms will reach up and overhead. And as you lower the hips down, your arms will come down by your sides. Let's do a few more of these. Last one. And we'll go ahead and very carefully release and roll the spine all the way back down onto the ground. Let the knees collapse towards one another. Again, just breathing freely here, slowing down that breath. Next, we're going to stretch out a little bit more through the inner thighs, coming into a half happy baby pose. Start by drawing the right knee in towards the chest. And then you're just going to draw that right knee in, but try to keep the shin sticking right out of the ground. So it's going to be like a lamp post sticking right out of the ground. And just the shin. So to do that, you can hold on to your calf, your ankle, or even your feet. But let the knee draw towards the outside of your ribs, so towards your right underarm. Just going to hold on here with both hands. Your left leg, you can keep it slightly bent, or if it's not too hard on your low back, straighten out that left leg. So we're coming into a half happy baby pose. And it's also a very good stretch for the inner thigh and right into the glutes. Big muscles. Okay, let's keep breathing. All right, stay here for a couple more deep breaths. Don't let that heel point down. Keep the heel pointed straight up towards the ceiling. One more. Okay, let's carefully release that. Just draw the knee into the chest, holding onto the backs of the thighs or your shin, and just small circles with the entire right leg. So you just want to get into that right hip joint, one direction and then the next. Good. All right, and let's release, facing that right foot on the ground. Draw the left knee into the chest towards the outside of your ribs, so towards your left underarm, and try to keep that left shin straight up and down. Okay, so your heel is pointed straight up towards the ceiling. Grab a hold where it's appropriate for your body, your calf, your ankles, or your feet with both hands. Allow the upper body to relax, and if it's not too hard on your low back, straighten that right leg. It's okay to keep it slightly bent. Okay. So just keep breathing here. You want to retain that slow, steady exhale and that deep, deep inhale. One more deep breath. And very carefully, you're going to release that. Draw that left knee back towards the center, holding onto the backs of the thighs or your shins. Draw small circles with that left leg to work into that left hip joint. And then switching directions. Feel some cracking, is pretty normal. And then make your way back to center. Just hug both knees into the chest. And very carefully roll over to one side and make your way up into a comfortable seated position. It's nice to have a blanket handy so that you can prop your hips up a little higher. The pose that we're going to do is Cobblers pose, soles of the feet together, and if you need some support under the knees, you can grab a block or a pillow and place it under those knees. So your feet are close to the body and your knees will drop open as best as you can, and just holding on to your feet or to your ankle, use a little bit of strength to draw your belly forward and lift through the crown of the head. It's just going to stay here for a few moments, using the strength of your leg to press the knees down. So you're engaging those leg muscles here, getting a little bit of an inner thigh stretch into a little bit into the hips, not too much at this point. One more deep breath. If you're feeling this, you'll stay exactly in the same position and just breathe through this. If you need a little bit more, you can start to soften as you draw the navel in towards the feet, and then soften your shoulders, your neck, and relax here, rounding the spine gently. One more deep breath. And very carefully start to make your way back up to seated. Help those knees come back together. And you can lean back slightly to let those knees drop side to side in windshield wipers. And next we're going to come into a dragon pose. So for this one, your blankets will be nice to cushion the knees. We're going to start off with the right foot forward for a runner's lunge. So step the right foot up. You want to make sure that the front knee is aligned directly over the front ankle and that the left knee, the back knee, is at least slightly behind the hips for this pose to be effective. If you find this really hard, you can keep those hands on the ground. So if you're feeling this stretch the front of the hips, stay exactly in the same position. Just let those hips continue to melt down and forward. If you need a little bit more, you can place your hands on your thighs as you lift the belly off the thigh and looking for a spine that is longer and straighter. Finally, if you need even more than this, just an option, you can lift that left hand up towards the ceiling or both hands up for dragon pose. Allow the shoulders to relax. Keep breathing. Good. Take one more deep breath here. And very carefully release the hands back down onto the ground. Now try this. Try walking that right foot out a little. Okay. And then allow that right knee to open up a little. So walk that right foot out a little, point it out at a 45-degree angle, and let that knee open up. Don't let the movement come from your ankle. You want to make sure it comes from your hips, even if it's a very small movement. Good. One more deep breath. And then let's bring it back to the center. Find your way back into a tabletop position and take some cats and cows here, or just a little movement in cats and cows. You can stretch the leg out one and then the other. Next, we're moving into our dragon pose with the left foot forward. So again, help that left foot up. Make sure that the left knee is aligned over the left ankle and that the right knee is at least slightly behind the hips. Again, staying here with the hands on the ground is perfectly alright. If you're feeling this stretch, just stay with this. If you need a little bit more, place your hands on your thighs as you make your way up for a longer spine. And then if you need even more than that, right hand up, or both hands up. Shoulders relaxed. Face soft. Breathe. Good. One more deep breath. And we'll release, lowering the hands down onto the ground. Walk that left foot out slightly and point it out at a 45-degree angle, and then let that knee gently open up towards the left side. Again, it's going to be a very small movement. It doesn't really have to be much for you to feel this. One more deep breath. Very carefully, we're going to release that, walk that left foot in, find your way back to a tabletop position. A little bit of movement here in tabletop, stretching one leg and then the other. Might feel really nice. Good. And then make your way back into seated. We're going to do our cow face pose or shoelace pose, seated shoelace pose. Start by stretching both legs out in front of you and then drawing the left knee in towards the chest. Next, place that foot to the outside of the right thigh, exposing the sole of your left foot. Try to bring those thighs in closer towards one another and try to line that left knee over the right as best as you can. You can keep that left leg straight out if you have knee issues. Otherwise, you can also tuck it in to come into shoelace. Seated upright is fine. If you're feeling it, this is exactly in the position that you want to be in. If you need a little bit more, that's when you'll start to lean forward, belly towards the thighs, and then it's okay to soften through the shoulders and face, and then breathe. One more deep breath. Inhale to come back up. Lean slightly back so that you can unwind those legs. Some windshield wipers. And let's go ahead and set up for the other side. This time the right foot will draw in. Place the right foot to the outside of the left thigh, trying to line up your knees. An option to tuck that left foot in as well. So you're making sure that you're seated tall. Once again, seated upright is fine. If you need a little bit more, that's when you'll bring your belly towards the thigh, and that's when you'll start to release and soften. One more breath, and very carefully make your way back up to seated. Lean back enough to unwind those legs. Perhaps some windshield wipers here will feel really nice. And then we're going to come on down onto our backs once more. So onto your back, we're going to look for our figure 4 stretch once again. Okay, so recline figure 4 stretch. Place the right ankle just above your left knee, and you can once again stay where you are, and just as we did at the start of the class, look for a little bit more depth. Now, just for those of you who still need a little bit more, you're not quite there yet, you need a little bit more of a stretch, try to come into a reclined pigeon pose. Now be very careful as you do this. Okay, hold on to your right leg. So just hook your forearms on the right shin. Now if this is really hard to get into, then don't bother, just stick with your figure 4 stretch. Now if you're able to hook onto your right leg with no problem, that's when you'll start to lower that left foot down onto the ground. Okay. Again, just staying here is fine, or you might want to straighten that left leg and see how that feels. It may or may not straighten all the way, that's not a problem. And just hold it here. It's a pretty deep stretch. If it's too much, bring it back to a figure 4 stretch, but let's stay here for another 3 breaths. Excellent, let's release that, carefully release, and cross the legs. And let's do the other side, left ankle just above that right knee, taking your variations. If you need more, try hooking the arms around that left leg. Very carefully straighten the right leg a little or a lot. Okay? It may or may not work today. And one hip might be tighter than the other. Deep breaths. Good. And so we might want to draw that right knee in, or just stay where you are. Okay, for 3 more deep breaths. Good, and then we'll release that, carefully release. A little bit of windshield wipers. We're finishing off here with a spinal twist. Draw the right knee into the chest. Straighten the left leg as best as you can. It can be slightly bent. And with the right shoulder grounded, do this by stretching the right arm out, shoulder height. Draw the right knee over to the left side. And just hold it here. Get a good stretch in the low back, a little bit into the hips and the abs. Good. Inhale back to center. Repeat on the other side. Gather the left knee into the chest. You can straighten that right leg on the mat. And then keep that left shoulder grounded by stretching your left arm out. And then use your right hand to guide that left knee towards the opposite side. And inhale back to the center. Make sure your hips are back to the middle. Take any other movements that you feel you need to take here, maybe a bridge pose or happy baby or just some windshield wipers. And then make sure that you are very comfortable as you move into Savasana. So just grab a hold of those socks and sweaters and things like that. We're moving into Savasana now. Try to stay in Savasana for 5 minutes or a little longer if you can swing it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day and namaste.